Hare Krishna. Today we would like to continue with Gopāla Campū. So we're starting with the 53, text 53. See, in chapter 2, seeing the profuse donations, Madhumangala spoke, flooding the place with the nectar of his joking. O persons worshipped in Raja, do not look at us with envy for the profuse donations we receive. This entire donation is not worth the price of even one preparation that you have eaten. When the uproar of laughter died down, Krishna, the maintainer of all happiness, approached his father and gently requested with humility, Balarama, Dama, and Sudama, and all of us will soon meet you. Going to his mother's room, he said, "Oh, mother, we're going to see the cows. Please give us permission." When she spoke to Krishna, milk flowed from her breasts. She said, "Live long. You're my life, so do not stay long." Then all the elder women, weeping together, said, "Oh, child, the cows are your mother in name only. Yashoda is your actual mother. Why do you not show special favor to her?" Lowering his head and crying while smiling, he said, "Oh, mothers, what shall we do? They are animals and have no intelligence. If they do not see us, they will not eat the grass." His mother said, "The child speaks the truth, but because of this, following dharma has caused us great pain. Our sons, whose wealth is cows, have made the forest their constant home." Krishna spoke with a smile. "Oh, mother, do not fear the forest. That fear has been destroyed because Keshi and other demons have been uprooted completely." Yashoda said, "Then why do we hear that even now the demons have become bold? They've taken the form of ghosts of dead persons." With a smile, Krishna said, "Oh, mother, they've not become ghosts. They have become dust serving the dust of your lotus feet." After dying in Vrindavana, by the power of that place, they attained liberation. Enacting Rama's pastimes of jumping over the ocean and building the bridge, as well as playing hide and seek, we produce a likeness of a material universe and then reveal pastimes to produce happiness. When the fears of the elder women were dispelled, Yashoda touched his back with her left hand and touched his chin with her right hand. With tears in her eyes, she spoke to Balarama, "Oh, child, wearing blue cloth, your mother has not shown such affection for you from your childhood as I have. She remains as if neutral. How can I reduce my unsettled nature? Therefore, I'm giving you an instruction. Immediately go on the path with Krishna." Then Rohini, thinking of his safety, said to Krishna, "Oh, child, whose mother is Yashoda, your mother has raised you from childhood, and thus you do not respect her orders. But do not disobey my orders. Please consider the one instruction that I repeatedly give. Please show a ray of happiness on your face to deliver your mother from great mental agony." When pure lotus-eyed Krishna desired to fall at the feet of the elderly women, and when chaste Yashoda entered the yard after leaving the house with the women, the best among his beloved gopis gazed at him through the holes of the lattice windows. When Krishna went to the forest to herd the cows, his gopis became filled with longing. They became intoxicated with his sweetness, became bewildered with prema, became fearful of the approaching separation, and became embarrassed. For a few moments, they remained motionless like painted pictures on the walls. When this happened, Krishna's eyes began to desire the gopis and then closed in shyness. The eyes thought, when his mind shows secret love for the gopis, it is proper that we should hide ourselves like the mind. When they began trembling among the gopis, Radha began to worry. If my transformations of love become visible to the elders, what will I do? When Krishna received permission to leave from the elder women and all eyes fell upon him, it seemed that Krishna had stolen all the eyes and stored them in his body as if he were reflecting their eyes. When Krishna departed for Śrīrama, Dama and others, servants followed him with umbrella, chamara, clouds and a box of betel, rare even for devatas. Krishna, wearing beautiful clothing, desiring to bring happiness to Nanda and others who were gazing at him, suddenly entered the broad, exalted assembly with Balarama. The members of the assembly stood surrounding Krishna in a circle, and Krishna appeared like the moon on the horizon. By this wandering glance, he began to look at all of them with special affection. His cloth was especially attractive, and his eyes sometimes opened and closed. It seemed that his body was being embraced by unlimited types of variegated beauty. All the gentlemen became blissful as they became absorbed in Krishna's form. One expert panegyrist, respected in his family, surrounded by relatives, placed two boys wearing attractive clothing and kaka paksha hairstyle in front, and with the permission of the assembly, had the boys recite blessings in the Viruddha style, song of praise. The boys gazed at astonishing Krishna, the one shelter of all, who was like a cloud for the Chataka bird, the ocean for Sagara's sons, like a Chintamani gem for treasure hunters, and like the sky for all the luminaries. The two young singers, looking at Krishna, an ocean of beauty without limits, along with their relatives, began to think for a moment. When they began to tremble and were about to fall, relatives steadied them, but they nearly fainted. When they were revived, they spoke with choked voices. "O unlimited sapphire among philosophers' stones, victory to you, protector of Raja. You appear to remove the burden of the earth. Holding up the earth as Ananta, you are the form of happiness for unlimited devatas. O Prince of Raja, victory to you. O Balarama, shining white, you are the flag of fame for the best men of your dynasty. Victory to you." Gazing upon lotus-eyed Krishna again, they spoke. Krishna was like the moon rising in Rohini constellation during the dark phase of the moon, who brings fame and joy. He is the son of Yashoda and Nanda. In amazement, they again spoke. The wise who praise fame are lying, for the poet should always describe fame in a spotless way. Behold in front of you that fame in the form of Krishna whom Yashoda bore. Then Nanda spoke sweet words. O crest jewel among sons, O Ratnachuda, who are these two young boys? Ratnachuda said, King of Raja, with all wealth, these two boys are my sister's sons. The king said, of which sister are these sons? Ratnachuda said, O king, without enemies, they belong to Ratnavati. Thinking of seeing Krishna and Balarama, the extraordinary forms of pious acts of all previous personalities, she has come here. She offers respects to you. The king of Raja said, O sister, may your prosperity increase. May your prosperity increase. Ratnachuda said, O Lord, this is my sister's husband. His name is Sumati. The king of Raja said, I saw him when he was a child. It's difficult to recognize him now. The king then praised Sumati. O respectable Sumati, please come before me. He asked, where do you reside now? Sumati said, O brave king, I live on the shore of the ocean. Upananda said, he has come a great distance. He is our guest. The edges of his eyes gleaming with the rays of his moon face, covering his rows of teeth with his smiling lips, which were like jasmine flower buds. Krishna said, what are the names of these two boys? Ratnachuda said, O Krishna, whose toenails are to be worshipped by millions of my lives, their names are Madhukanta and Snigdakanta. Krishna said, their names appear to have the same meaning. Ratnachuda said, they are brothers, twins. Upananda said, O Ratnachuda, have these two boys studying your art of praising? Ratnachuda said, yes, they learn from me. They have surprising qualities which appear unexpectedly. Upananda said, what are their qualities? Ratnachuda said, they know everything, and because of that, they are protectors of the poetic art. Everyone looked on them with amazement. The king of Raja said, respectable Sumati, from where did these two boys obtain such powers? Sumati said, "Oh, purifier of the universe, oh, pure fame, please ask them." The king of Raja said, "Oh, long-lived boys, your qualities surprise us. Please remove the astonishment." The two boys, folding their hands, spoke these words: "Lord of the people of Goloka, mercy of Guru is the only cause in all cases. Being respectable persons, you can understand this." The king of Raja said, "Who are these teachers who are so great?" Folding their hands, they again spoke, "It's Narada, to be remembered every morning, our fortunate possession, who reigns all bliss." Everyone present said, "Then it is not astonishing." The two boys spoke again, "We came to Vrindavana on his order. By his mercy, we have gained knowledge rare even to the Devatas. By thinking of him, the mysteries of material life are destroyed. By thinking of him, the miseries of material life are destroyed. We have entered your place full of all wealth by his order." All present again were filled with astonishment. Krishna began thinking, I now remember. Seeing these two boys come after a long time, I recognize them. Balarama, understanding Krishna's desire, then approached Nanda and spoke, "Great father, we long to see the skills of these two boys." Agreeing to this, Nanda then said, "Oh Balarama, the day is passing and guests have come by chance like alphabet letters accidentally carved by bookworms. Please make arrangements for welcoming the guests with suitable items." He ordered those nearby, "Give them a shower of gifts, the best ingredients. Whatever we have, they should have. From the morning, call the assembly of people to see the wondrous event." Later, the inhabitants of Raja, putting Upananda in front, showed their contentment. After the panegyrists had dispelled all worries, they departed with offerings of suitable food and other items. Later, the inhabitants of Raja, putting Upananda in front, showed their contentment. After the panegyrists had dispelled all worries, they departed with offerings of suitable food and other items. In this manner, noon passed. Then noble Krishna, possessor of all wealth, knower of all knowledge, informing the king, departed with Balarama and others after offering respects to all. Understanding the minds of his friends, Krishna began to think, "We have departed to follow the cows, but the boys do not want to return. Their intelligence nourishes their good judgment, but it cannot stop the desires of the mind." Krishna, along with Balarama and their friends, arrived at the forest. He began playing the flute. Hearing the flute, the trees in front began to blossom, but the trees behind, not hearing the flute, remained without beauty. Separated from the elders, the cowherd boys held hands and began laughing in bliss on remembering some person in the assembly and repeating his speech in a broken manner. When the laughter died, Balarama spoke to Madhumangala, "O crooked Madhumangala, when the mothers brought us, you spoke with unclear words. O queen of Raja, I want to speak to you alone, but no one could hear you since they were all absorbed in chores." Madhumangala laughed loudly and closed his eyes. Then he became silent. After a moment, he said, "Thought that talk was for everyone's happiness. I've forgotten about it." Balarama said, "Oh, dear friend, please swear to tell the truth. What was this?" Madhumangala said, "Touching my thread, I swear I will not tell a lie. He who tolerates suffering helps me control my senses. He who has a peaceful heart supports my calm nature. He who has knowledge gives me knowledge. He who is a perfect teacher makes me perfect. If he's covered, my lies will be covered. How can I give up clear and desirable qualities? I will tell if your women give the order. If not, I will not tell." Krishna said, "You are insane. First tell us both." Madhumangala said, "I will if you do not become upset." They both said, "No, we will not." Madhumangala said, "I want to speak loudly. The best knowledge exists today intact with your beloved gopis, since conversations with pastimes of anger are now constantly taking place in the forest." Holding Madhumangala's arm with his right hand, With his right thumb and middle finger pressing his lips slightly, Krishna smiled and spoke, I will sew up his lips with a clean silk thread, and in this way my Brahmana friend, full of unsteady intelligence, will remain silent. Madhumangala kept his mouth shut and then spoke as if he were about to spit. If your intention is to keep my mouth shut, my mind has greed for some other rare item. From your house, bring all the sugar candy and fill my mouth with it continuously. How and why will I be able to waste words? In this way, you can sew up my mouth. Balarama smiling said, you speak of bribes and forbidden items. How can a Brahmana desire these? When he said this, everyone laughed. Then the clever Madhumangala, expert at jokes, embraced Krishna for a few moments with zeal and began laughing loudly, repeatedly, while swinging Krishna around. Then Krishna endowed with all good qualities, his heart moved by the jokes, surrounded by his friends, walked along the path lined with branches laden with fruit. Catching up with the cows, he began playing the flute. When they observed the cows and brought them together, an astonishing voice spoke from the sky. All streams pull objects in the same direction as the flow, but the stream emanating from the flute pulls objects in the opposite direction towards Krishna. After that, from the notes of the flute, the cows recognize their lowing as the second note of the scale. The peacocks recognize their cries as first note of the scale. And the cuckoos recognize their calls as the fifth note of the scale. With astonishment, they became attracted to the flute sound and became completely enchanted. Who can imagine such an event happening at any time? But it happened repeatedly. If Krishna becomes enchanted by the sound of his flute, who would not be, since he is the life of all living beings? Ah, the increase in happiness from hearing the flute was a cause of breaking the enchantment, since on hearing the flute, like something experienced in a dream, they awoke from the state of enchantment and began staring at each other in astonishment. When they all recovered and went to the cows, Madhumangala spoke with a gentle smile. It is seen that offense to a Brahmana bears quick results. It's amazing to see that among everyone sitting here, only Krishna thinks of silencing me, but all have now become silent. While joking with him, the cowherd boy spoke, moving the cows in the district of Mathura. Calling the cows with hi, hi, they brought the cows to the Yamuna with jihi, jihi, and stopped them by saying, dhiriha. To make them drink water, they said, oh, cho. And to separate them, they said, jiri. To bring them from the water, they said, tiri, tiri. Keeping the cows on the bank of the river in great bliss, the boys bathed and then began singing. When the mother sent the boys lunch, Krishna joyfully served the savory items while smiling and sampling each item with his tongue. After washing his mouth, Krishna returned home with Sridama, Dama, Sudama, Vasudama, and others. He filled his cheeks with betel nut wrapped in golden leaves, mixed with camphor, sprinkled with powders, which appeared like brilliant constellations. The beauty of his face was increased by his full cheeks, touched by quivering earrings. With his two eyes, he conquered the beauty of a lotus. This sight gave joy to all his friends. While returning home, Krishna made the cows eat aromatic grass as they slowly passed through the forest in a joyful mood. Longing to see the people of Vraja, he moved forward with his friends, pointing the cows towards Gokula, taking shelter of huge trees. While listening to the music and songs of the Devatas and Upadevatas, Krishna approached the outskirts of Vraja. The Devatas in attractive airplanes, sages with siddhis through yoga of mantras, the cows through smelling and seeing, the boys accompanying him, and the people of Vraja standing on the roofs all gazed upon the beauty of his face and experienced bliss on seeing the beauty of the edges of his lotus eyes. In this way, playing the flute, he entered Vraja. The cows lowed, the cowards shouted, the Devatas recited praises, and the sages chanted the Vedas. But the people seemed to have become deaf. The fine sound of the flute defeated all other sounds and became most attractive. From the forest and from the village, people gather in joy like the merging of two great oceans. Though always experiencing this event, the Devatas were astonished, for Krishna, appearing as beautiful as the moon, was able to control each cow by the instructions from his flute. Krishna, appearing as beautiful as the moon, was able to control each cow by the instructions from his flute, preventing the cows from leaving the shed, keeping the people in front. Krishna and Balarama stood surrounded by their friends in order to milk the cows and give pleasure to the cows and calves. Approaching the town gate in the middle of the crowd, when he made an attempt to go to his house, fame giving Yashoda and other women performed Aratrika for the two boys and showered them with popped rice. As all washed, they entered the town. The two cleverly glanced about to attract the gopis and relieve their fatigue by having their feet washed and being fanned. As all washed, they entered the town. The two cleverly glanced about to attract the gopis and relieve their fatigue by having their feet washed and being fanned. They went to the bathing place, experiencing the care and affection of their mother. Their servants helped bathe them. Putting on fresh cloth, they approached their mother. When twilight came and they finished dining with Nanda, they went to the assembly outside and sat down amongst their friends. When all highly qualified persons gathered there, Sumati and Ratnachuda came with Madhukanta and Snigdakanta. Nanda asked them if the couple had taken their meal. Since they were satisfied, Krishna, filled with all auspiciousness, called his two sons as if they were his own younger brothers. Out of affection, he made them sit near him and had them listen to the praises recited by the bards of Raja. Being satisfied, the two brothers became anxious to display their own abundant qualities. Nanda pleased everyone by continuing the festivities several hours into the night, and after inviting them in the morning to hear some new poetry, bid them farewell. Krishna, wearing yellow cloth with the permission of his father, took the hands of the two boys, giving up all other desires, and went with them to his mother's house. When the excellent boys came before worshipable Yashoda, a form of liquid bliss, they spoke many metaphors. Is she the deep limit of the milk ocean which gives birth to the moon of Gokula? Are we seeing the form of the rising moon, full moon? Has the eastern direction produced a sun out of bliss? Actually, the rising of a compassion for a sun has created coolness for all people. Yashoda, having a most pleasant nature, showed deep affection for the two young boys by a gentle behavior and by giving foods, cloth, and ornaments. Krishna, the essence of all happiness, having his mother bless them for auspiciousness, asked permission to take them to the bedroom. Following his mother's orders with great affection, he took the two boys to the bedroom to see Radha. Arriving at the place, the boys saw Radha like the Devata controlling lightning, like Lakshmi with a lotus garland among a group of lotus-like women, like compassion amidst all wealth, like modest conduct amidst all qualities, like a wealth of Mahabhava amidst the Rati of Krishna. On seeing Radha, they developed prema and lost consciousness. Seeing Radha, they developed prema and lost consciousness. Seeing this, Krishna attended them. When they recovered, Krishna, gazing at Radha, began to think, the blue sapphire has effulgence as its very life. That effulgence is golden. The mixing of these into one is Radha and Krishna. This is cause of Madhura Rasa. When Krishna introduced them, Radha happily offered them gifts as if they were youthful concerts. Sending the two boys to Ratnachuda's dwelling with some associates, he then entered his bedroom to take rest. When Krishna entered his bedroom, Radha eagerly arrived and offering a seat, began serving him by waving a chamara. When he approached the bed, Radha hid herself. When he approached the bed, Radha hid herself. When her Sakhis begged her, she acted as if she had never seen Krishna before. The Sakhis said, "Oh Radha, when you cannot see Krishna, you long to see him. When you see him, you hide your feelings. Why do you always act like this before Krishna? We do not understand." Firmly taking her two arms, Lalita and Vishaka led her into the room. She became stunned internally and externally. Krishna then pulled her close. He pulled her with force, though full of desire and going to the bed. She did not act straightforward and struggle with him using her hands. She came together with him only with resistance. Who can control Radha? The actions of both are not amazing since he became the very form of Madhurasa for her. O Krishna, O Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, O Rupa and Sanatana, O Gopala Bhatta and Raghunatha, O Vallabha, who has attained Braja, please protect me. Part 2, Balya Rasa. Chapter 3, Krishna's birth. O Krishna, O Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, O Rupa and Sanatana, O Gopala Bhatta and Raghunatha, O Vallabha, who has attained Braja, please protect me. Goloka was glorified by taking references from the best scriptures. Vrindavana appears in two forms because of the Prakata and Aprakata manifestations in this world. The form which is not manifested in this world is the Gokula, with the form of a spiritual lotus. It extends with 7 layers and is ruled by Nanda Maharaja. From the morning, Krishna's activities are glorified by many suitable actions. The description of the two young boys born in a family of bards with attractive wisdom and knowledgeable of poetics, coming to the worshipable assembly of Nanda, takes place in that Gokula. The description of Nanda and others desiring to hear their praises takes place in Gokula. The speech of these young boys is described in this chapter. On another day, starting from Brahma Muhurta, Krishna performed his duties as on other days. As on other days, he ate his meal. Nanda then instructed, O child, early in the morning, together with the other boys, feed the cows the best food, and then on my order, come and eat your meal. The meal is described. In an excellent room, Krishna and Balarama appeared glorious as they sat. The two mothers took vessels from the hands of other women and served the food. Mixing with those women who used gentle words, the two mothers were made to laugh. At this festival, all associates became happy. After the meal, Rohini looked at them with tears in her eyes and with a smile, listened to them. In Rohini's presence, Krishna discussed many joyful topics with Balarama and other friends. After some time, a message came from Nanda. O child, the members of the assembly have been worshipped. The assembly appears magnificent. The two young boys have arrived, bringing their group. Taking permission of his mother, Krishna went to the assembly behind Balarama. Krishna was like the moon and the members of the assembly were like a pond of lotuses. Krishna was like the moon and the members of the assembly were like a pond of lotuses. In order to enter the assembly from the inner chambers, there's a gate on the east. In order to enter the assembly from the inner chambers, there's a gate on the east side. There are rows of pillars in all 4 directions. The gate appears like a house. In this gate, which is the 5th, there are 4 other doors. The nature of the doors is that they can hold thousands of people. In the middle of the gate, there's a wall made of lattice holes. In this way, the path is divided in 2. By the path, one comes to 4 paved areas on the inside and outside of the gate. 2 areas are outside with jeweled thrones. Krishna and Balarama sit on these thrones to the left and right with contented hearts. Nanda was sitting in the northern area facing south. On his left side facing west was a line with Krishna, giving bliss to the assembly. On his right facing east was a line giving happiness composed of Brahmanas who gave the highest benefit. Many cowards were sitting in the southern area. The middle portion of the 2 areas gradually rose from the courtyard and was thus visible from below, all around. On the raised area facing the king stood the 2 young boys with folded hands along with their group. On the left and right of the raised areas, the audience sat, showing respect to the panagyrist. Others were seated in the expansive courtyard. Nanda sat among his brothers on a high throne inlaid with precious gems and was welcomed by men wearing auspicious items. but his glance was constantly focused upon the face of Krishna with great longing. In this way, the citizens saw Nanda, king of Gokula, in the assembly. Krishna and his friends Balarama, Dama, and others sat on white cushions, merged with the lower parts of their bodies, and took part from circular pillows by leaning on them, and took support from circular pillows by leaning on them, while showing affection to their friends with smiling eyes. The complexion of Krishna is now described. By his complexion, he was dark. By his eyes and lips, he was red. By his cloth, he shone yellow. Thus, he radiated many colors. By the beauty of his limbs, the eyes of the spectators' glances became unsettled. They moved their eyes about as if laughing at an actor. The moon of Krishna is the number one cloud. By his effulgence, he is like a lamp lighting up the universe. Lightning flashes from him in the form of his yellow cloth. Will not all other lightning give up its identity? The constellations merge into him. Hearing such words, others say, how astonishing! This cannot be understood. This is not the sky, but an assembly. In this way, the poets quarreled continually among themselves. In the assembly, the other poets spoke. What is this new assembly with a swarm of bees above, a blue lotus blossoming below, and below that the pure black water of the Yamuna? Famous Śrīla, engaged by Krishna and Balarama, acting as the proxy, informed the king and went to the inner chambers. He passed through a wide hall, which should be viewed with downcast eyes. He approached another room with many lattice work holes. Bringing Yashoda there, he placed a guard at the door of a room. While glancing around the assembly, he then sat down at the side of Krishna and Balarama. Mixing with his friends, Madhumangala then entered the area to provide joy by his clowning in relation to the events. On an excellent jewel seat, Yashoda sat with the wives of Nanda's brothers. The wives of their sons sat nearby and served her. Through the lattice holes, she could see the moon face of her son and yearned for his extraordinary character. The king then ordered in a sweet voice, "O Madhukanta and Snigdhakanta, we are very eager. Please describe something." Folding their hands, they said, "O king, with what story should we begin?" The king of Raja said, "You know everything. Astonish us by relating stories about us. This will show your knowledge to us." They said, "We will follow the order of the respectable people. But among the two of us, please give the order to one of us. The other will hear." The king of Raja said, "On one day, one can speak. On the next day, the other can speak. But the first to speak should be the elder. That is best." Then Madhukanta, in great eagerness, folded his hands and recited the invocation, giving joy to all present. The Supreme Lord Krishna, who remains most excellent, Brahma, Narada, Veda Vyasa, his son Shukadeva, Parikshit, Suta, and Shaunaka distribute knowledge of Bhagavatam and deliver the world. We offer our respects to those attractive persons to spread the glories of Gokula. Behind and at the sides of the boys, Ratnachuda and Sumati, expert at advising, began singing while slightly clapping their hands. To the right, Snigdhakanta was hearing, while Madhukanta became the speaker, pleasing all to the highest degree. When this arrangement took place, Madhukanta eagerly began singing, dancing, and acting, pleasing all as he began the story. The story begins. Devamidha, who personified all the best qualities of the Yadu dynasty, whose is praised in all the Shrutis and Puranas, lived in Mathura. The best of Kshatriyas had two wives. One was of Kshatriya family and the other was of Vaishya family. They bore two children, named Shura and Parjanya. Shura produced Vasudeva and others. Parjanya, because of his mixed parentage, became a Vaishya and worked with cows. He lived in Mahavana. From his childhood, Parjanya would worship the Brahmanas just on seeing them and gave them everything to fulfill their desires. He was affectionate to them as Vaishnavas. He carried out activities to the best of his knowledge and worshipped Vishnu his whole life. His mother's family was the praiseworthy ornament of the Vaishya community. The wise glorified the mother's family by calling them Abhira, and because of that, a family line had attained excellence. Concerning this, Manu has said, Brahmanad ugra kanyayam avruto nama jayate abhiro bhashta kanyayam ayogavyam tu digvanaha. When a Kshatriya male unites with a Shudra woman, the offspring is called Ugra. When the Brahmana male unites with a Vaishya woman, the offspring is called Avrita. When a Brahmana male unites with an Ambashta woman, the offspring is called Abhira. When a Shudra male unites with a Vaishya woman, the offspring is called Ayogavi. When a Brahmana male unites with a Ayogavi woman, the offspring is called Digvana, Manusmriti 10.15. Elsewhere, it is said that when a Brahmana unites with a Vaishya woman, the offspring is called Ambashta. This is made clear in the Padma Purana, Shrishti Kanda. Thus, the great Abhiras included in the Vaishya community were twice born and praiseworthy. Snigdha began thinking about this. Some may get grave doubts about the twice-born nature of the Abhiras. But in Bhagavatam, Nanda says to Krishna, Krishi Vanijya Go Raksha Kusidam Turyam Uchyate Varta Chaturvidha Tatra Vayam Go Vrittayo Nisham. The occupational duties of the Vaishya are conceived in 4 divisions: farming, commerce, cow protection, and money lending. Out of this, we as a community are always engaged in cow protection. SB 10.24.21. Shukadeva has described their houses as follows. The cows' homes in Gokula appeared most charming with their abundant paraphernalia for worship of the sacrificial fire, the sun, unexpected guests, the cows, the brahmanas, the forefathers, and the demigods. SB 10.46.12. On the other hand, Vidura, who in previous life was Yamaraja, was born in the womb of a Shudra woman but acted otherwise as a Brahmana. The doubters are deaf to these examples. Then Madhukanta spoke to clarify the doubt as follows. Madhukanta said, it is not surprising that Parjanya surpassed the normal Vaishya by his conduct and wealth. He was well regarded for protecting his own land and flooded everyone with a wealth of milk since he was generous. He became the most prominent and was like a cloud showering rain. He was like Dhruva for his fame, joy, and wisdom, like Pritha in glory, like Bhishma to enemies, like Shiva to friends, like Brahma in respectability, and like Vishnu in power. All people imitated his qualities and were controlled by his qualities. Thousands of cows with all wealth from his maternal grandfather's line took shelter of him. He also had many relatives. Ugrasena and other elders of the Yadus recognized that he excelled in all qualities and bestowed to him all of the beautiful land of Goloka. Because he had the best qualities, he was called Variyasi. He produced bliss in the world by bearing 5 sons such as Upananda. The panegyrists glorify him as follows. A round cloud is one thing, but a rain cloud is one thing, but Parjanya, meaning cloud, is a cloud of joy because he gave joy to the world by bestowing 5 sons, starting with Upananda. A rain cloud is one thing, but Parjanya, meaning cloud, is a cloud of joy because he gave joy to the world by bestowing 5 sons, starting with Upananda. Since we see that the rain cloud showers water on the earth for the livelihood of farmers, it's not surprising that the cloud has become personified as Parjanya, full of generosity. They compared him as follows. Just as the Para Brahman of the Vedanta Sutras is called Priya, Amoda, Pramoda, Ananda, and Brahman, Parjanya took the forms of 5 sons. A metaphor is given, giving the sons the names Upananda, Abhinanda, Nanda, Sananda, and Nandana. He brought bliss, Ananda equals Nanda, under control. Though he had all wealth, his sons were the best wealth, just as clothing is the best among all ornaments. Among them, the middle son Nanda was the wealth, just as among Aishwarya, Virya, Yasha, Shri, Jnana, and Vairagya, the ones in the middle, Yasha and Shri, are most prominent. Some compare Nanda to Arjuna, middle of Pandu. Some compare Nanda to Arjuna, middle son of Pandu. But I do not compare Nanda with his qualities manifested from childhood to Arjuna just because of being born in the middle. Not only was Nanda born as the middle son among such generous brothers, but he was also the sole object of affection, middle object for all people. The intense affection that his mother and father had for him increased the happiness of the other brothers. There was no envy. It's not surprising that Nanda had such wonderful qualities because he showed great bhakti to Krishna. Bhagavatam says, the Devatas constantly dwell with all good qualities in that person who has pure bhakti for the Lord. There are no good qualities in the non-devotees who chases after temporary material objects with desire for material pleasure. SB 5.18.12. Hearing these words from Madhukanta, Upananda spoke to Abhinanda. Do you know that what he's saying shows that he knows others' hearts? Considering those words, Abhinanda then spoke with astonishment to Madhukanta. Then what happened? Then Madhukanta spoke. Then one of the chief cowards named Sumukha gave his daughter to Nanda. That daughter controlled all relatives by her good qualities and bestowed abundant qualities to those who heard about her. Those who saw her increase their good qualities. Those who had devotion to her must necessarily have obtained all good qualities. All became happy at the affection of the couple. What to speak of relatives becoming happy? Parjanya gave bliss to all beings. He was without lamentation. Parjanya gave bliss to all beings. He was without lamentation and possessed more wealth than others. He experienced great bliss and was unattached to maintaining a household. He decided that he would spend his whole life in worshipping the lotus feet of Govinda. He wanted to give the responsibility of continuing the family line to Upananda, the eldest and best son. Finally, in the assembly attended by kings like Vasudeva and Garga, he handed over responsibilities. Upananda, accepting the order of his father, thought himself successful. But in that assembly, with great souls like Vasudeva, Upananda called his younger brother Nanda and embraced him with affection. By Tilaka, he gave Nanda sovereignty over Gokula. By Tilaka, he gave Nanda sovereignty over Gokula. Seeing the action of Upananda, Nanda became reserved. Seeing the action of Upananda, Nanda became reserved. When the people became astonished, Parjanya's eyes became eager. Upananda said, I cannot take responsibility without first considering as follows. Everyone is dependent on affection. Affection is dependent on good qualities. Good qualities are dependent on fitness. The fitness of Nanda is not that he should rule over people like me, but with independence, he should rule over everyone. The Antaryami Narayana accepts him. Look, all eyes in the assembly like bees are attracted to the lotus face of Nanda. From the beginning, this has been arranged by the favor of Narayana. Let him rule in my name. I will be his assistant, Upananda. He is our king. He is our king. Sounds of very good were heard clearly in the sky with showers of flowers. In the assembly, there were cries of victory, victory made by people with wide eyes. Snigdhakanta said, "O Madhukanta, you have made the whole universe eager with your sweet voice. The three sons between Upananda and Nandana are in the middle. Which one is the middle son and who is the fittest? Please explain this with an example." Madhukanta said, "Your joy is fitting. Please complete the following riddle which gives joy." Snigdhakanta said, "I agree." Madhukanta said, "Taking my son, he makes that son his own and attains great wealth. He knows what that person did, but does not give up friendship with him. Who is he? Please say." Snigdhakanta quickly said with bliss and eagerness, "It's Nanda." Madhukanta said, "Yes, you know, please hear this. People by their meager qualities desire happiness and worship of themselves. He who with abundant qualities desires to worship others and desires their happiness is Nanda Maharaja. Desires to worship others and desires their happiness is Nanda Maharaja. Since he endured suffering of separation from his son in order to please Vasudeva, his heart never destroys friendship in the slightest." Hearing the nectar of the moon-like words of Madhukanta, the audience seated inside and outside became like an ocean with their bodies as waves and offered piles of jewels of affection to him. The assembly distributed their hearts with no distinctions visible. Hearing the nectar of the moon-like words of Madhukanta, the audience seated inside and outside became like an ocean with their bodies as waves and offered piles of jewels of affection to him. The assembly distributed their hearts with no distinctions visible. Snigdhakanta said, "Then what happened?" Madhukanta continued, "The unfortunate Parjanya entered Vrindavana to worship Govinda's lotus feet. When his son desired to know the essence of all scriptures in brief, he taught him as follows. What is the cause of fear? Karma is the cause. What is the shelter? Bhakti to the Lord is the shelter. What is the most cherished object in this world? The devotees of the Lord are most cherished. What is happiness? Krishna Prema is happiness. When excellent Parjanya went to Vrindavana with his excellent wife, Upananda acted in Nanda's assembly as an advisor like Bhishma Deva acted for Vichitra Virya. According to his name, Upananda, assistant of Nanda. Nanda, taking his advisor's orders, always protected the citizens as a good king. Nanda's mode of protection was astonishing. He followed all the rules of his forefathers. There were no obstacles to Artha, Dharma, and Kama. His wealth was not restricted, and thus he prospered greatly. The country filled with the inhabitants of Raja and endowed with a good king prospered beyond all limits, but a longing arose. Nanda, king of dynasty, the life of all people, has not given birth to a son. Seeing that their hope was destroyed after a long time, the people became depressed. What to speak of his elder brothers? Nanda's wife had previously become filled with doubt concerning a child, but later this became intense. Snigdhakanta said, "Why did the brothers not perform a sacrifice for obtaining a child? Why did the couple become full of doubt? Since they were devotees of the Lord, how could they have that desire? And why would it become so intense later on?" Madhukanta said, "The priest performed sacrifice, but there was no result." Snigdhakanta said, "Why was that? And why did the couple have doubt and desire?" Madhukanta said, "Though the couple had all wealth, in private they spoke as follows." Nanda said, "Dear wife, when the grief-stricken relatives perform sacrifice for bestowing us a child, who is their shelter? At the time of Sankalpa, my mind desires a son more wonderful than all others. How can this remarkable son be attained by pious acts? The son I desire cannot be attained by karma. He is the cause of karma and the cause of the universe. If they perform sacrifice for another type of child, I have no interest. It is impossible to gain such a son by following scriptures. my desire for attaining a son will diminish. How can an imaginary flower be sweet next to a parijata flower? What form can be sweeter than the form of Narayana, who is the supreme shelter of the Vedas and who is merciful to me? Snigdhakanta began to think it's not improper to say that Krishna is sweeter than Narayana, for Bhagavatam says, Yan Nritya Leela Paikam Swayoga Maya Balam Darshayata Grihitam Vismapanam Swasya Cha Saubhagardhe Param Padam Bhushana Bhushanangam. The Lord appeared in the mortal world by his internal potency, Yoga Maya. He came in his eternal form, which is just suitable for his pastimes. These pastimes were wonderful for everyone, even for those proud of their own opulence, including the Lord himself in his form as the Lord of Vaikuntha. Thus, his transcendental body is the ornament of all ornaments. SB 3.2.12. Snigdhakanta then asked aloud, then what happened? Madhukanta said, his wife then spoke, please tell me about his form. Nanda said, I see an attractive child with dark complexion and long eyes playing on your lips, on your lap. I see an attractive child with dark complexion and long eyes playing on your lap while your breasts flow with milk. Is this a dream or am I awake? I cannot say, dear wife. Tell me the truth. Is this child within your womb? Yashoda said, dear husband, I have this mentality which surpasses intelligence, but out of shyness, I cannot tell you. Becoming detached from this impossible desire, we should control our minds. He said, even if I control my mind from having impossible desires, I still see in my mind the form of Narayana, from whom all the universes arise, who is a great assister and protector. That Narayana, who previously has fulfilled our desires, can do that again and make the form previously not seen or described visible to us. She said, oh Lord, I think that we must perform service to him. She said, oh Lord, I think that we must perform service to him. He said, yes, but which type of service should we do? She said, we should perform penance on Dwadashi day. In bliss, he said, you speak correctly. We have a sprout of a desire. From today, let's perform this vow. As they spoke in this way, the Devatas sounded drums whose sound spread everywhere. When his inner mind of previous times was thus revealed by Madhukanta, Nanda's heart melted and he gave the young boy, his own attractive ornaments. Yashoda gave him the essential jewel from a necklace. In anticipation, Snigdhakanta said, then what happened? Madhukanta said, after they had completed the 1-year vow and increased the desire in their minds, Narayana appeared to both of them in a dream. When you have such intense devotion to me, why are you lamenting so much? That boy blue like an atasi flower that you have repeatedly experienced will appear as your son. Following you, he will be born as your son to spread his bhakti in every kalpa. The forms of Drona and Dhara I arranged in Swarga or your expansions. Brahma said, Brahma said, Tad bhuri bhagyam iha janma kimapi atavyam yad gokulepi katamangri rajo Bhishekam Yad Jivitam tu Nikhilam Bhagavan Mukundas Twadhyapi Yat Pada Raja Shruti Mrigyam Eva. My greatest possible good fortune would be to take any birth, whatever, in this forest of Gokula and have my head bathed by the dust falling from the lotus feet of any of its residents. My greatest possible good fortune would be to take any birth, whatever, in this forest of Gokula and have my head bathed by the dust falling from the lotus feet of any of its residents. Their entire life and soul is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Mukunda. The dust of whose lotus feet is still being searched for in the Vedic mantras. SB 10.14.34. Brahma was unable to meet the Lord directly, but you have taken birth to meet him. Brahma was unable to meet the Lord directly, but you have taken birth to meet him. Brahma was unable to meet the Lord directly, but you have taken birth to meet him. Krishna takes birth to be. Krishna takes birth to be your son. Very soon your sweet desire will be fulfilled. After the Lord spoke these most beneficial words and disappeared, Nanda and Yashoda awoke and became immersed in an ocean. After the Lord spoke these most beneficial words and disappeared, Nanda and Yashoda awoke and became immersed in an ocean of nectar. Speaking to each other and revealing it to others, they became filled with astonishment. After the Lord spoke these most beneficial words and disappeared, Nanda and Yashoda awoke and became immersed in an ocean of nectar. Speaking to each other, and revealing it to others, they became filled with astonishment. Speaking to each other and revealing it to others, they became filled with astonishment. Snigdhakanta thought to himself, what he has said has answered my question. The Lord has spoken correctly that Krishna would be their son. That was also the intention of Garga, who speaks an ocean of truth. Prag ayam vasudevasya kwasit jatas tavatmaja vasudeva iti shriman abhignya samprachakshate. For many reasons, this beautiful son of yours sometimes appeared previously as the son of Vasudeva. Therefore, those who are learned sometimes call this child Vasudeva. SB 10.8.14. The relationship with the Lord must be a relationship of pure prema, for it is said, I am to be attained only by devotion. SB 11.14.21. The specific reason is given. According to how they surrender to me, I respond to them. Thus, BG 4.11. Thus, the prema known as Vatsalya, expressed by those regarding Krishna as the son, is proved. Thus, the prema known as Vatsalya, expressed by those regarding Krishna as their son, is proved. Because of his reverential view, Vasudeva had weaker prema. Because of his reverential view, Vasudeva had weaker prema. Nanda's, because of his reverential view, Vasudeva had weaker prema. Nanda's Vatsalya, however, was pure and increasing at every moment. The sages explained that the cause of this was their thinking of Krishna as the son. The sages explained that the cause of this was their thinking of Krishna as the son. The sages explained that the cause of this was their thinking of Krishna as the son. Bhagavan api Vishvatma Bhaktanam Abhyankara Aviveshamsha Bhagayana Mana Anaka Dundubhe. Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the super soul of all living entities and who vanquishes all the fear of his devotees, entered the mind of Vasudeva in full opulence. SB 10.2.16. Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the super soul of all living entities and who vanquishes all the fear of his devotees, entered the mind of Vasudeva in full opulence. SB 10.2.16. Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the super soul of all living entities and who vanquishes all the fear of his devotees, entered the mind of Vasudeva in full opulence. SB 10.2.16. Tato Jagan Mangalam Achyutam Sham Samahitam Shura Sutena Devi Dadhara Sarvatmakam Atma Bhutam Kashta Yathananda Karam Manasta. Thereafter, accompanied by plenary expansions, the fully opulent Supreme Personality of Godhead, thereafter accompanied by plenary expansions, the fully opulent Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is all auspicious for the entire universe, was transferred from the mind of Vasudeva to the mind of Devaki. Devaki, having thus been initiated by Vasudeva, became beautiful by carrying Lord Krishna, the original consciousness for everyone, the cause of all causes, within the core of her heart. Just as the East becomes beautiful by carrying the rising moon. SB 10.2.18. It was possible to hold the Lord in their minds because of their very natures, which could not be attained by any external actions. Because of that, it was natural that thinking of Krishna as the sun arose through such strong bhakti and extraordinary attachment. Therefore, Krishna made his appearance as the son of Nanda and Vasudeva because of specific causes. It was possible to hold the Lord in their minds because of their very natures, which could not be attained by any external actions. Because of that, it was natural that thinking of Krishna as the Son arose through such strong bhakti and extraordinary attachment. Therefore, Krishna made his appearance as the son of Nanda and Vasudeva because of specific causes. Snigdhakanta then said aloud, then what happened? Madhukanta said, when the longing became intense, one day all long-standing inhabitants of Vraja assembled and skillfully presented a proposal. Just then an austere woman arrived with a Brahmana boy who had graduated from school. Seeing his great qualities, everyone rose to their feet. Welcomed him and inquired, you seem to be Yogamaya personified. Who are you? And the boy seems to be the youthful body of Narada. Who is he? She said with a smile, I am named Paurnamasi. I am a middle-aged and wear red cloth. Since childhood, I performed austerities. I can see the future. This boy is Madhumangala, a Brahmana boy. He has a nature equal to Narada's. We remain eternally at the age that you see us because of our special knowledge. They said, we have fallen. Why do you show us such mercy? She said, you will have extraordinary fortune. They said, what is that? She said, Nanda, your life and soul will have a son who gives bliss to the universe. She said, Nanda, your life and soul will have a son who gives bliss to the universe. With tears and hair standing on end, they said, Mahavana is a special holy place. Since you have given us such relief, we will build you a cottage near the Yamuna river. She said, your invitation is like the Vedas. Though newly produced, it's unerring in truth. By mentioning the word Krishna, Yamuna river, you have indicated Krishna who will appear in the future. When Krishna possesses great powers, takes birth, the earth will no longer be considered generous. By his qualities, everything will be youthful. What is praised? By his qualities, everything will be youthful. What is praised as having good qualities will be praised as having no material qualities in relation to Krishna. Possessing wealth will become possessing nothing except bhakti to Krishna. Though everything will become opposite, all people will accept this. Therefore, by your mercy, we are eager to reside here. Everyone offered her respects and took her to the restless Yamuna river, abundant with blue lotuses, built her a hut and had lived there. Everyone offered her respects and then took her to the restless Yamuna river, abundant with blue lotuses, built her a hut and had her live there. On that day, in the faultless evening, Vasudeva, disturbed by uncontrollable Kamsa's anger, sent Rohini, favorable to Vraja. Riding on a horse, she arrived secretly. She was very faithful to her husband. Just on seeing her, Nanda's assembly became joyful. Auspicious omens such as flocks of birds flying in the sky became visible. Yashoda and Rohini, like the Yamuna and Ganga rivers, became overcome with bliss on meeting and showered bliss on each other and everyone else. Understanding that, starting with Jeshta month, Rohini was pregnant for 3 months. Yashoda, identifying with her, became most joyful. Then on the night of the first day of the waning, then on the night of the first day of the waning phase of Magha month, which would bring all happiness, Yashoda was serving Nanda. In a fatigued state, she saw some worshipable object as if in a dream. Then on the night of the first day of the waning phase of Magha month, which could bring all happiness, Yashoda was serving Nanda. In a fatigued state, she saw some worshipable object as if in a dream. She saw a child whose limbs were covered by a celestial maiden being transferred from Nanda's heart to her heart. Transferred from Nanda's heart to her heart. The boy entered into the lotus of her heart and the girl entered her womb. Nanda, for a long time, also experienced that the child had entered the heart but could not explain it. His grief disappeared and he experienced an indescribable love. Snigdha Kanta thought to himself, it is true, the sages say that these two are the children of Nanda and Yashoda. Considering this thoroughly, I also have come to this conclusion. He said aloud. Then what happened? Madhukanta said, understanding the symptoms in her womb, the excellent women of the assembly brought auspicious items and made Yashoda, protector of Gokula, happy. When she became pregnant, her face became somewhat pale. The tips of her breast began to swell and her belly became enlarged. Just as a lamp in a crystal case shines within and without the case, Krishna shone within Yashoda's womb and illuminated the whole universe. Though Yashoda was very grave by nature, her self-control became disturbed by greed. She began asking for some items. Because Krishna had entered within, she became desired to eat rice fragrant with camphor and soaked in ghee and sugar, decorated with tulsi leaves. Yogamaya then destroyed the 7-month embryo in Rohini's womb and transferred the 7th-month embryo from Devaki's womb. After the 14th month of pregnancy, Yogamaya then destroyed the 7th-month embryo in Rohini's womb and transferred the 7th-month embryo from Devaki's womb. After the 14th month of pregnancy, after the 4th month of pregnancy, at a most auspicious time before Shravana month, during Shravana constellation, Rohini, after the 14th month of pregnancy, at a most auspicious time before Shravana month, during Shravana constellation, Rohini in great joy gave birth to a most beautiful son endowed with all qualities. After the 14th month of pregnancy, at a most auspicious time before Shravana month, during Shravana constellation, Rohini in great joy gave birth to a most beautiful son endowed with all qualities. He was like the full moon endowed with shining whiteness. She was a she-elephant giving birth to an elephant calf endowed with evident prowess. She was a lotus giving birth to a white lotus endowed with pure streams of fragrance. The son was a mass of good qualities like perfect knowledge, which gives auspiciousness to all hearers. Rohini gave birth to Balarama, whose face was like the moon, whose eyes were like lightning, whose hair was like a rain cloud, whose complexion was like a white autumn cloud, and whose effulgence was like the sun. These are appropriate comparisons since he was a spiritual child. His body was white. He had a younger brother and will be a killer of demons. He will be the protector of cows and the killer Dhenuka. He had long arms and will be the killer of Pralamba. He's called Rama, but will be the killer of Dvivida, who associated with Rama. The astrologers praised him in this way. He had long arms and will be the killer of Pralamba. He's called Rama, but will be the killer of Dvivida, who associated with Rama. The astrologers praised him in this way. The birth and name ceremony was performed secretly on the advice of Vasudeva by expert Brahmanas whose name ended in Sharma. There was some sadness, however. After the birth of Balarama until the birth of his younger brother, there was dullness. There was one remedy, however. When Balarama sat on the lap of Yashodas, who held Krishna in her heart, they saw that Balarama became very happy. Some days later in the 8th month, it was clear that the birth would take place. The wise even now explain it as follows. During the 28th Yuga cycle of Vaivasvata Manvantara, at the beginning of Kali Yuga, on the 8th lunar day of the waning moon in Bhadra month on Wednesday, when the moon rose in faultless Rohini constellation, during Harsha Yoga, the perfect Lord, the moon of Krishna, appeared in order to increase the affection of Yashoda, Nanda's wife, destroying the darkness of the waning moon. The Devatas presiding over the Yugas, carrying gifts, arrived to serve the time of his birth. Though meditation appears in Satya Yuga, sacrifice appears in Treta Yuga, deity worship appears in Dwapara Yuga, and chanting appears in Kali Yuga. Though the jasmine blooms in spring, though the mango appears in summer, the waters become clear only in autumn, though the harvest appears in winter, though the kunda flower appears in the cold season, though the lotus blooms during the day, though the planets give auspiciousness according to arrangements of the astrological scriptures, and though the Lord appears only by the power of Guru, by the influence of Krishna, all these occurred at this time. Yashoda gave birth without being aware of the birth. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for listening. I would like to stop here today. We'll continue tomorrow. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.